cooperation. Moving on to topical issues, and number 1 is in the name of Deputy Kieran O'Donnell.
Thanks very much, Cathaoirleach, Ceann Comhairle rather. This motion is about an issue that's becoming more prevalent, unfortunately, and it came about in the context of joint policing committee briefings from Garda Chief Superintendent Gerard Roach in the Limerick City Division. And what he made reference to is that the issue of what people would traditionally know as drink driving, we now have an increasing phenomenon of drug driving. And his request is that they require more testing equipment machines. Currently they have only 5 machines, 4 mobile, 1 static. They have made an application for further 6 machines. And the stats are very stark in this regard. When you compare the level of, from January to December of this year, there was virtually 50-50 drink driving and drug driving tests. 128 drink driving, it's up 12% on the last year. And for drug driving, 121, total 249, 121, it's gone up 128% on year, as against 12% for drink driving. In the COVID period, we've seen this massive surge. So drug driving has gone up 128%. And it's even in more alarming terms when you look at the months of June and September of this year. In June, you had 22 drink driving, you had 19 drug driving, higher, 22 versus 19. And when you look in the month of September, which is a short time ago, drug driving was 3 times as high as drink driving. And drug driving was 22 and 8 drink driving for the month of September. And what people need to be aware, for a first offence for drug driving, you lose your licence for a period of disqualified for 4 years, and you lose your job as well. And furthermore, if you have drugs in your system, be they cannabis or cocaine, they can be in your system for up to 3 to 4 weeks. So people might think that they're not going to be caught for drug driving after a period of time. But in many cases, if they're caught with drug driving, it could be in their system for up to 3 to 4 weeks after they've taken the drug. Cannabis and cocaine would be 2 of those. And the implications are enormous. The consequences are enormous. People are automatically disqualified for 4 years for a first offence, and in many cases they will lose their jobs, if not nearly all cases. So, Minister McEntee, what I want to ask is the resources can be made available to Garda Síochána in Limerick to increase the number of machines for testing for drunk driving from the current 5 to 11. They're looking for an extra 6 machines. This is a growing phenomenon. There is a need for education around this area, but what Gardaí and Limerick are looking for at the moment is extra resources. And they are telling me that if they had these extra 6 machines for drug driving, nothing will take away from drink driving, which is equally as bad, but drug driving is on a serious increase, if you were to judge from the Limerick stats. So we're looking for funding for the extra 6 drug driving machines on top of the current 5, so Gardaí can do their job and ensure people are not driving under the influence of drugs. Thank you very much.
Minister.
And thank you to Deputy O'Donnell for raising what is a very serious and a very important issue. While Garda Síochána has been testing Irish drivers for drugs with the assistance of the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, or the MBRS, since 1999, I'm sure the Deputy will be aware that the drug driving provisions in the Road Traffic Act of 2016 were only commenced by the Minister of Transport on the 12th of April 2017. And the Deputy has outlined some of the measures and indeed the consequences if people are caught. One of the key measures in the legislation provides for preliminary drug testing, which enables Gardaí to test motorists at the roadside whom they suspect of driving under the influence of drugs. And An Garda Síochána can establish roadside checkpoints known as mandatory intoxicant checkpoints, or MITs, to test drivers for the presence of both alcohol and indeed drugs. The operation of mandatory intoxicant testing checkpoints and the enforcement of road traffic legislation are operational matters for the Garda Commissioner, and I know the Deputy will appreciate as Minister I have no role in these matters. However, I am assured that Garda management keeps the distribution of all resources under continual review in the context of crime trends and policing priorities to ensure their optimum use, and I am assured that this is also the case in Limerick. And Garda Síochána enforcement figures indicate that 1,216 drug driving arrests were made in the first 6 months of 2020, which is an astonishing figure if you compare to 591 in the first half of 2018. This represents a 106% increase in drug driving arrests, despite a 70% reduction of traffic during the period of the COVID-19 restrictions. As the Deputy will be aware, the Government is committed to ensuring that An Garda Síochána has the maximum level of resources available to perform its policing duties, and that An Garda Síochána has been allocated an unprecedented budget of €1.952 billion for 2021. And obviously it is anticipated that with that additional funding, that I'll outline some of the breakdown now, that each county, including Limerick, would benefit from that. This level of funding is enabling sustained ongoing recruitment of Garda members and staff, first and foremost, extremely important to ensure that these duties can be carried out. As a result, there are now approximately 14,600 Garda members and over 3,000 Garda staff nationwide, and Budget 2021 will allow for the recruitment of up to 620 new Gardaí and an extra 500 Garda staff. This recruitment is supporting the redeployment of Gardaí from administrative operating policy duties, where their training and their expertise can be better used to best effect. An additional €22 million has been provided for Garda ICT to bring total allocation to over €70 million for the second year in a row. There will also be continued investment in the Garda fleet of €8 million. This is in addition to the highest ever investment of approximately €15 million in the Garda transport fleet in 2020, a proportion of which relates, of course, to the Garda COVID response. And again, I would anticipate that all of this additional funding will be spread dependent on where the Commissioner and his team know and understand the resources are required. Budget 2021 provides An Garda Síochána with a significant resource allocation to support its vital enforcement role on our roads. Drug driving not only puts drivers at risk, but it also puts passengers and other users at risk. Preliminary drug testing strengthens the ability for Gardaí to tackle drug driving, and I'm absolutely committed to supporting this important statutory enforcement provision in my role as Minister for Justice. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy O'Donnell.
Thanks very much, Minister McEntee. You can see in context that you said the national figures are showing 106% of an increase in the first 6 months of this year. That very much correlates with the fact that we've seen a 128% increase in the Limerick Garda district for the first 9 months of this year. So it's extremely serious. And obviously, you've made further reference in the context that we've seen a reduction in traffic with COVID. You can only imagine what it would be like if we had normal driving patterns. So, Minister, what I really want, I suppose, to put the direct measure that this appears to be a growing feature on our roads at the moment, and you spoke about it not only putting the lives of the drivers taking drugs themselves, but the passengers and also other car users, and in many cases pedestrians who are walking on the streets, on the roads alongside. And we've seen a lot of pedestrians knocked down in recent times. So, Minister, what I'd ask is that this is a matter in your normal engagement with Garda Commissioner Drew Harris, that you'd ask have the adequate resources to ensure that Gardaí on the ground, like Gardaí in the Limerick district with Garda Superintendent Jerry Roach and his fellow members of An Garda Síochána, that these extra 6 drug testing equipment machines for roadside, for car use, for motorists, can be effectively provided to the Limerick Garda district, so we can ensure that there is enforcement put in place. And furthermore, could I also suggest, Minister, that there would be an education dimension to this by An Garda Síochána in your department to make people aware of the consequences if they're caught drug driving. Automatic disqualification of licence for 4 years. They will lose their jobs with employers because they won't be able to drive in many cases. So, Minister, if you might just deal with those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose just to say to the Deputy and to reiterate, without stepping into an area that obviously I don't have responsibility for, I am assured by the Commissioner and by his team that they continue to look at all areas, the districts, obviously the resources that are needed and required within those areas, and they do allocate accordingly. And I suppose my role is to ensure that the additional funding is allocated, that the resources that they need is allocated, and we have tried our very best in this year's budget to ensure that that is the case. And I think the fact that we have an unprecedented budget this year of 1.952 billion will allow us to address some of these concerns. I share your concerns. These are absolutely frightening figures, particularly when the amount of traffic on the road has decreased so significantly. But maybe just to outline the fact that the Gardaí are not just, I suppose, seeing an increase in this type of crime, they're also able to identify other areas. As the Deputy will be aware, An Garda Síochána recommenced Operation Fanacht on the 22nd of October, and Gardaí have continued, obviously, in their role in that particular operation, but they have also looked to prevent and detect crime on our roads. And in the first 7 days of Garda operation, 71 crimes were recorded in the course of the COVID-19 operations that were not related to breaches of regulations. These were mainly road traffic and drug related as well. So the Gardaí are very much focused on this. This is a priority for them, even though obviously they're focused on COVID-19 as well. The Deputy might also like to know that the Road Safety Authority launched a public consultation to inform the development of the 5th Government Road Safety Strategy, which will run from 2021 to 2030, and this is something that I have no doubt they will be addressing and will be taking on board, and that's, I suppose, the Deputy's comments about the education piece is something that I will pass on to. I think what's been a very effective tool in recent years, and while they can be very difficult and very upsetting to watch, are the adverts that very clearly show the damages that can be done on our roads. And when it comes to drugs, it's no different here. And of course, obviously, I look forward to working with the Gardaí as they implement the strategy, and most importantly, making sure they have the resources to do that. Thank you.